and good evening. I'm Melisa Idris. Welcome to Consider This. This is the show where we want you to consider and then reconsider what you know of the news of the day. Tonight, we examine the surprising apology from former Prime Minister Najib Razak over the 1MDB scandal, in which he expressed a regret that it happened under his leadership. However, he still maintains his innocence, claiming he was deceived. Now, is Najib seeking public redemption, or is the shadow of 1MDB too deep to dispel? And what do the responses to his apology say about Malaysia's journey towards accountability and regaining public trust? So joining us on the show is P. Gunasegaram, who is an independent writer and consultant, and in 2018 he authored the book titled 1MDB, The Scandal That Brought Down a Government. Guna, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me. What do you make of Najib's recent statement? He expressed regret, but he stopped short of accepting responsibility for the 1MDB scandal. He maintained his innocence. Just wondering, what's your sense of why he made the apology, and what do you make of it?
I think it may be tied to what PM and Finance Minister Anwar Ibrahim said at the mentioned casually at the budget about the introduction of house arrest for certain detainees. So I mean, everyone has sort of like joined the dots on the line for the line, and so that seems to be what he's aiming at.
But Guna, the Home Minister and other government officials have categorically denied that the house arrest was anything related to Najib. Do you think there's still skepticism despite the official denials?
Actually, nobody seems to believe that, in this one. And Najib's apology actually coincided with this. So I think there was no talk about house arrest for detainees until Najib was in the picture. So everyone is basically tying up the apology with the issue of house arrest.
Right. If I'm not mistaken, Guna, I think this is probably the first apology by a Prime Minister in Malaysia. I mean, granted, he's not a sitting Prime Minister anymore, but I'm wondering whether that makes any difference. Who do you think this apology was meant for?
I think the apology is not quite an open apology. He makes no admission of guilt, even though he has been found guilty by the highest courts in the land, both the Court of Appeal as well as the Federal Court, on one charge already, and he still faces multiple charges. All he is apologizing for is that this happened on his watch, which is actually quite different, and shows no regret as to what he was. The courts have already found complicit in, and he's being accused of many other court cases where he's clearly complicit if he's found guilty.
Well, in his apology statement that was read out by his son, Najib pointed to the Edge's article saying that that was evidence that he was misled by Jolo and Petro Saudi. Can I ask you whether you think that article in the Edge, written by the CEO and founder Ho Kee Tat, do you think that article exonerates him, or was there kind of selective interpretation to his advantage?
No, not at all. It was definitely selective interpretation. The article, I read the whole article. The article clearly states that at that point of time, which is I think 2009 or 10, Najib may not have known about it. All right. So it is at that point of time only, and the article itself also mentions further on that Najib must have known soon after about this. So if you look at the time frame, 2009-10, Najib does not know. But that movement of US 681 million into his accounts was much later in 2013. Najib had many years actually to find out, that was that Jolo had lied to him, if indeed he had.
Okay, so for you, it doesn't make sense that he is using the article to maintain his innocence. I,
We add something else. This is the memorandum and articles of association of 1MDB. It states very clearly that any decision made by 1MDB has got to go through the finance minister, who at that time was Najib. This is because of the various guarantees of up to US 7 billion or more that were given for loans taken by 1MDB. So Najib must have been aware at every stage that this was happening, many times.
if we were to zoom out, Guna, and just look at, in the past month, I would say, or so, we've seen Shazali Ramli, who was Najib's former branding guru, has now been appointed Anwar's media and comms chief. We have Najib's daughter, Nuriana Najwa, is now on Martrade's board. All of these things that's happening in the corporate and political world, do you think that these moves are coincidental, or are you seeing something more, that there is a shift in political dynamics that may be more favorable to Najib?
There are too many things which are happening for it to be coincidental. The announcement about the house arrest, and then the subsequent announcements of the daughter of Najib to the board of Martrade, and Najib's former advisor being appointed Anwar's advisor now. So there is definitely an effort, and they're making it public for Anwar and the Madani government to move closer and closer towards Najib camp.
And
so
if we were to,
in my view, no.
Sorry, Guna, what was that?
It's not a coincidence.
And if we were to look at, how far Malaysia has come to rebuild our the integrity of our institutions, I'm just wondering whether you are heartened or encouraged by the progress that you see, any meaningful changes that might prevent a scandal like 1MDB, a scandal of that scale, happening again in Malaysia?
I think for it not to happen again, everyone who has been involved in it must receive their due punishment under the law. And there must be no effort to actually reduce the severity of this punishment through any means such as pardons or house arrest or anything else. In fact, the maximum possible sentence should be imposed in these cases, because it was really a very bad thing. Money was borrowed, and even before the money can be used for viable things, it was stolen out of 1MDB. So that's really very, very serious, and it has not been done before in the country.
All right. Guna, thank you so much for speaking with me. That was P. Gunasegaram, author of the book 1MDB, The Scandal That Brought Down a Government. We're going to take a quick break here and consider this. We will be back with more. Stay tuned. Hi, welcome back to Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris. Let's continue our discussion about former Prime Minister Najib Razak's recent apology on the 1MDB scandal, which has reopened some old wounds and sparked some new debates. Well, joining us on the show to discuss this further is Dr Syaza Shukri, who is an Associate Professor of Political Science at the International Islamic University Malaysia, IIUM. Dr Syaza, thank you for being on the show with me today. First of all, can I just get your thoughts on the actual apology itself? That was a written statement by Najib that was read by his son at the KL High Court. What did you make of the apology itself?
Well, thank you, Melisa. My first reaction was, well, great. He finally apologizes for, I guess, the mistakes that were made. But when we look closer at the text itself, then it brings a lot of question in the sense of, is it really an apology, or is it him trying to pass on the mistake to someone else? Because it doesn't look like a sincere apology. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but my assumption is that when you apologize, you admit to the mistakes that you have made, instead of saying it's not really me, as written in an article, therefore I should be let free because of it.
Well, so it's the first time a Prime Minister, albeit a former Prime Minister, has apologized. Do you think that makes a difference to the public? I mean, was there, in terms of the broader reaction to his apology, do you think that that in some way shifted the public sentiment towards Najib and his legacy and his reputation?
Unfortunately, I think that it's a bit too late, I guess. If this apology had come years before, then maybe people could have had this feeling that, okay, he really felt guilty for some of the things that occurred under his watch. But now that he's already been convicted for the SRC cases, it doesn't seem sincere. So I don't see how it could sway public's opinion on him at this point. In fact, what I saw is that the people are questioning him more, like, why now, right? The question is, why now? Why are you giving us this apology now? So to be honest, I don't see a lot of shifts on the ground. People have kind of made their decision in a way, and I guess a lot of people also trust in the court system and the fact that he has been found guilty for one of the cases. Kind of brings to the question, can he really say that he's innocent for the other, the bigger 1MDB case? A lot of people want to see how this go on, I guess, tomorrow.
Right. Well, the why now question is really interesting. The other question I had was, who is it for? So who do you think this apology was meant for?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I know that people are linking this to the proposed bill on the house arrest and all the other things that are going on. But to be honest, if you look at it, I don't see how it could apply to him, this proposed idea of a house arrest, because of the magnitude of the crime that was allegedly committed by him. It doesn't make sense for him to be put under house arrest. Having said all of that, we do know of this addendum that is supposedly out there that hasn't been revealed to the public, and I think he's trying to make use of that, the possibility of the addendum of a house arrest, given the partial pardon given by the former king. So it seems like the audience is the government, but I'm not sure how much does the government want to get involved in such a high-profile case such as this.
Well, the house arrest bill, I mean, there's lots of speculation that it might be linked to Najib, but the government has officially denied that. Can I ask you, Dr. Syaza, even despite the government's official denials that it's linked, there seems to still be this, it still persists, the speculation that it's somewhat linked. Why do you think there is such a strong sense of skepticism still connected to the perception of elite impunity tied to the house arrest bill?
Well, for me, it's two things which I've kind of alluded to earlier, which is, number one, the timing of it seems suspicious. This apology came right after the supposed house arrest bill that was mentioned in the budget. So why did it happen at this current juncture? Number two, again, is about the addendum that we have no clear idea of what was really written, what was said, can it really be used? A lot of question marks. So that is why a lot of people are skeptical, and people are talking about elite interference. And we're talking about elite interference here is actually at the highest level in Malaysia now. We're talking about the king, which I don't want to go too deeply into that, but that's the whole situation. Who can override the king's decision if it was really stated that he wanted Dr. Najib to be under house arrest? What's the legal implication? So there's just a lot of question mark that keeps people on edge, I think.
Right. And what about the Prime Minister's reaction? I mean, he had said, Anwar Ibrahim had said that he welcomed Najib's apology, but there are those out there who think he shouldn't have, who worry that it might mean a softening of the government's or this administration's view towards him and his legacy. There are those who criticize the Prime Minister for welcoming Najib's apology. How did you dissect or decode or digest that entire situation, Dr. Syaza?
Oh my, I might seem biased here, but in a way, I actually agree with the Prime Minister that when someone offers an apology, the least you can do is accept. But as we know, forgive doesn't mean you forget. On one hand, okay, fine, you have apologized, thank you. But on the other hand, this is not just a matter of an apology. We're talking about alleged criminal offences, breach of trust. So this has to go through the due process. So I think the government and the Prime Minister specifically understands that he's not going to interfere in that. But a lot of people who criticizes the Prime Minister's acceptance of the apology, I think they're trying to mirror public sentiment, because people just don't want to hear this, not this apology, but people just don't want to accept Dr. Sri Najib's alleged innocence yet, because there's still a lot of, grievances over years of this mishandling and the impact of it for years to come, decades to come. So people are just still angry, so they don't want to hear that, oh, the Prime Minister is softening to him.
Right. Yeah. Do you think people are still angry? I'm just wondering whether there is a generational difference. I mean, do you think younger Malaysians who may have less direct memory of Najib Razak's actions or alleged actions, do you think they view him differently from older generations? I mean, are they less likely to be concerned with his legacy?
I like that question, because in the sense that it's a lot to think about, but I think that from reading the ground of the younger generation today, I feel that even though they were not adults yet during the time of the 1MDB scandal and everything, but they kind of read and hear about it, and it has it's part of them now that they want supposedly clean politics, right? So if we look at that kind of trend that, the younger generation, they want clean politics, free from corruption. So we take two and two together, it means that the younger generation could not also accept a prime minister that was supposedly involved in this kind of criminal misconduct. The older generation, how I'm feeling is that I see to be honest, with the case of Datuk Sri Najib, I see it's a class divide. The middle class, they're angrier because, like we've been saying, it affects them. But the lower working class who actually receive a lot of benefits during Datuk Sri Najib's time, they are the ones who are welcoming to him, who are willing to forgive him because they don't see it's a problem, because they receive the benefit. So when it comes to Datuk Sri Najib, for me, it's really a class issue. It's not really a generation, because middle class people generally, they're not willing to accept him back into politics.
Well, Dr. Syaza, always a pleasure talking to you. That was Dr. Syaza Shukri from IIUM. We're going to take another quick break here and consider this. We'll be back with more. Stay tuned. Hi, welcome back to Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris. Let's continue our discussion about former Prime Minister Najib Razak's recent apology statement. We speak now to lawyer Sin Yew. Sin Yew, we know Najib is still facing other legal proceedings. I'm just wondering if he's made this public apology of sorts about the 1MDB scandal, how might that factor into the other cases that he still has going on? Does this count as what it was, the sub judice rule?
No, I don't think it's sub judice, and I also do not think that it would be admissible in court, because for an evidence to be admitted in court, there are certain processes and rules to follow. For example, the witness needs to take an oath and then state his side of the story. So in this case, it was something that is made out of court. And whether or not that qualifies as an apology, I have my doubts, because if you look at the whole text of it, he basically said that he was sorry that it had happened, and there were certain things that he would have done differently, and then that's about it. He cited a number of other individuals that could be responsible for it. So whether or not that's an apology, well, I think you can call it whatever you want, and I think the public should be the best judge of it.
All right. Well, what's your sense of how it went down in terms of public opinion? Do you think the non-apology resonated?
Well, like all things 1MDB, it seemed to be lapped up quite quickly by politicians as well as some segments of the public. But you know, there were a lot of discourse in the ensuing few days that whether you should accept the apology, whether you shouldn't accept the apology. I think that's something that is political. It's not something legal. Whether it's going to sway public opinion, I don't know. I suppose after so many years, it's good to have some form of admission that there has been some wrongdoing rather than the stonewall defense, you know, and say that, okay, I'm not involved at all. I totally don't know what happened. So it seems to be a moving of the needle of sorts.
Right.
So, well, we don't know. There could be more to come.
There could be more to come. Can I just get your thoughts, and just in terms of what's happened with the judicial proceedings and the entire legal environment surrounding Najib and his legacy? Would the public apology in any way impact judicial proceedings in terms of influencing public opinion? Because it's still ongoing. I mean, who was this apology for? Was it for people who are involved in his case moving forward?
I think it would have minimal impact in terms of judicial proceedings is concerned, and judicial proceedings is still a far way off from completion. I think tomorrow there will be a finding on whether or not there's a prima facie case in the 1MDB charges. So assuming that the judge finds that there is a prima facie case, then we will have, I think, years to go for the defense to be conducted and then a finding to be made. And then after that, you would have the appeals process. Of course, there's also the civil suits that are ongoing. That too would take a while towards completion. So how much impact it would have, I really don't think it would have much impact. It's not something that is admissible. It's something that he might get questioned when he's on the stand saying that you had made this apology. But again, you know, it wouldn't affect the quality of the evidence that much, because whatever that you say, it's self-serving. Ultimately, the court of law, there are certain processes and rules to follow in assessing whether or not the evidence and how much weight is admissible and how much weight it can be given. So looking at this, it's more political than it is legal. Let's put it that way.
Okay, and I think, and that's fair, because I think that's how the public perceives it as well. But the timing of it is also has raised a few eyebrows. And his apology, Najib's apology, comes just days after the government said in the budget speech that it would propose a new law for allowing house arrest for some certain offences. And I wanted to ask you, despite the official denials that it has anything to do with Najib, do you think the timing is purely coincidental, or are there concerns that that this could be linked to Najib still, that persists?
Well, the timing is certainly of suspect. Whether or not it's intended or it's just by chance, I don't know. But the issue of house arrest, there's this saying, well, it's not really a saying, but there's this pattern that every time an ex-prime minister goes to jail, there's a lot of focus on prison reforms. So I welcome the news of the house arrest. It's good that politicians are paying more attention to what's going on in prison. House arrest is actually something good. It's not just about punishment. It's also about rehabilitation. And there's this saying that, you know, you send a petty criminal to prison, and he comes out no longer a petty criminal. He improves his skills. So house arrest is something that I think as a modern nation we should look forward to. It gives people a second opportunity. It allows them for rehabilitation. It certainly saves a lot of public resource and public money because our prisons are overcrowded. But it shouldn't be for all offences, especially serious offences. And in this case, I think no one is going to argue that it's a serious offence. No one is going to argue otherwise. And house arrest should not be made available to offences which are serious in nature, which shocks public conscience or involves violence. So what this proposed bill that the government intends to table in 2015 and the apology, whether or not there's any connection, I think it's far too early to make any assumptions. We have not even seen the text of it.
I understand. Can I just come back to the types of offences that could qualify for house arrest? I want to ask you, I have heard before people making the argument that white-collar crimes or graft crimes are victimless crimes. What are your thoughts on that, Sin Yew?
Well, it's victimless in the sense that there's no one that was hurt. But in a way, everyone's all the poorer because it involves public money. And if it is a victimless crime, then we wouldn't have severe punishment being attached to it. And for normally when it involves financial offences, the punishment is easily from up to 10 years or up to 20 years. So under the law, that's a serious offence. Victimless offence is like, for example, you post something nasty on Facebook and then the government decides to prosecute you for it. That's a victimless crime. Or you go to a public assembly, you didn't have proper licenses. That's a victimless crime. So it's not right to say that financial offences is a victimless crime. I think everybody are victims.
Understood. Sin Yew, thank you so much for speaking with me. That was Lawyer News Sin Yew wrapping up this episode of Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris signing off for the evening. Thanks so much for watching and good night.